I decided to have a bright and optimistic part in the film, which would be an antithesis to the dialogue part. This sequence could have been a combination of many good moments there could be in a relationship, like first date and giving presents to each other on Christmas, which with the passage of time would change to a darker side of their relationship as the guy would start to show his irresponsible childish side. I knew that we had to travel to Brighton and shoot the brighter part there because it had the most spectacular and beautiful locations I knew in England. As it was a personal project, I wanted to include Brighton because of the love I had to the city I had been living for 3 years. I have many pleasant memories just of me wandering around in streets feeling as if I'm visiting a history and an art museum at the same time as being on a music festival. That's what I think is something special about a tourist city where many people come just to have some fun on the weekends. I didn't even have to do much secondary research about the places where I should shoot or scout for locations because I had been all over the place during my college years when I was doing photography. I wanted Brighton to appear as a character in a film to translate the atmosphere of the city so that the events that happen between my characters while they are having a romance would be inseparable from the place in which they occur, which I was inspired from such films as Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver, where the city acts in a destructive way for the character played by Robert De Niro, as well as in David Fincher's Seven, where the city is so sunk in darkness that it drives either to a deep state of depression and melancholia or to the worst acts of violence. And as in Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo, where San Francisco is what the director referred to as the American Paris, because he felt passionate about it. We booked a room in a hotel for 2 nights, we arrived in the evening and we were going to shoot during the next day. Only having one day of shooting, I decided to film a first date sequence so we wouldn't have to change dresses and haircuts to indicate a passage of time. Now divided into 2 dates, a brighter day in Brighton and a darker evening in a bedroom in Bournemouth. Brighton Station is a place where the tourists usually come first to visit the city. It is a place where the journey of many people begin, and since both of my characters are foreigners, it symbolizes that they are not locals but rather tourists, aliens with a spirit of a romantic journey. I got a permission from the station management to shoot there and we stayed for about an hour and a half. I shot the station from many different places and wanted to play those sequences at high speed, showing the rush that happens on a station as well as blurring the people and little stories which might have happened in front of a camera which were not necessary for the story. I later decided that it was pointlessly distracting and doesn't match with the slow pace of the film. I like this short sequence. First, the Brighton is full of very inspiring and popular street art which cannot be inseparable from the city. And the second thing is what happens in front of the graffiti. The picture indicates an interior of a room, and while the characters are having fun in front of it, they are soon going to be trapped in a domestic life. This sequence was shot from 4 different places, and in this version I used 3 of them. However, I understood that the only action that takes place is them holding hands, so I only need to have one coverage, otherwise it distracts the audience for no reason. The burnt Brighton pier is shown to indicate what is going to happen in their relationship, as it will start to fade. As a metaphor, the pier is bare, naked, without any lights, but it's still a pier, but that's what the male character doesn't understand because he's blinded by the magic of illumination as a child looking at the fireworks. He needs them to stay happy, yet he's blinded by them, unable to be mature as he's willing to be entertained. The bedroom sequence was shot a day before we visited Brighton. We had a microphone for this one, which was hidden in a rubbish bin the whole time. I shot Roman and Kate on different dates, and when I shot Kate's close-ups, I didn't have the microphone and the sound was taken from the camera. I worked at it during the post-production so that the sound I had recorded from the camera would be similar to the microphone sound and not so flat so that the audience wouldn't be distracted. But in this initial cut you can hear the difference. I also ran into problems with sound recorded with a microphone. The record was running the whole time, and then I divided it into different takes, 35 in total, and saved them using a weird lossless codec, which I later realized it ruined the whole thing because for no reasons it saved the sound from different places, from different time, and I had to divide the whole thing again in 35 takes and saved it as an MP3 files, which worked. I ran into a similar problem exporting the video with a near lossless codec because the files were so large my computer couldn't play the preview very well. The next segment of this video is about post-production work. Throughout the project I applied the main rule on what the film should be like, the same rule that Francis Ford Coppola followed when he filmed Apocalypse Now. It has to be beautiful. No matter what happens in front of a camera, whether it's a romance or a violent scene, the images and music has to be beautiful in order to fully translate the emotions to the audience and so that the film would be a joy to watch. From the footage that I had after principal photography, you wouldn't be able to sit through the whole thing and be embraced in the story. The more beautiful it is, the more believable it appears to the audience, and it's even better when the audience experiences the same feelings watching a movie as when watching a dream. So in the post-production I was aimed to bring the film to that level of quality. Here's an original footage of the exterior of Brighton Station. You can see that the image is distorted as if there is a bulge in the center of the frame and the corners are quite blurred. When I was filming the whole sequence in the Brighton Station, I used a lens that distorts and blurs the image. And after putting the footage together, I realized that it badly distracts the viewing. So the first thing to do is warp the image until the lines of the architecture wouldn't be curves. Now let's look what happens inside the frame. Nothing happens in the sky, some people walk on the left and nothing on the right. So the next thing would be to add some movement on the right to even the action in the frame. I took the people walking on the right from another moment in the sequence. Put a bird which flies away from a later period in the sequence. And it's even better to make the same bird upstart itself and take its place. The only thing that bothers me now is a huge chunk of white where the sky should be. Delete that. Put a blurred picture of the sky with some clouds and frame the whole thing.